Hello and welcome to another Wednesday Paint and Chat. Flo paints, I chat, we all have fun here. How are you guys doing today? Keep trying to come up with new fun phrases for, people all have these catchphrases now. It's like really good for merchandising and it's really smart for like marketing and stuff, and I'm terrible at it, so I just make things up as I go, hoping something will stick. Anyway.
That's okay. I'm just a surly person who sits here quietly and paints for the most part.
Right. So happy Wednesday to you all. First Wednesday in May. Yep. The new month has just started. 4 months into the year. Who needed those 4 months? Not me. Right. So, as the title suggests, we are going to chat about some of all the new spicy 40K 10th edition rule set stuff. We've got, of course, my wonderful painter Flo here. What are you working on tonight, by the way?
I'm working on a certain Astra Militarum lord of yours on a fancy horse.
Yes, he is beautiful. I'm also working on my cavalry, which has taken a long time to put together. I have one horse put together out of 5. I did that one evening, and I literally haven't gotten back to it. Do you ever have that where you get to start in on like hobbying and you get to start assembling a unit and then something interrupts you and it just takes forever to get back to it? It's making me sad because I'm looking forward to having my cavalry stuff, which I don't know how much that's going to be as beneficial in 10th edition since everything looks like it's going to be leaning toward transports, but you know what? I don't care. I want my pretty horses. And I guess Huns, like they're basically Huns, right? The Attilan Rough Riders, so.
Huns, Mongols.
Yeah, etc. So let's say hello to everybody in the chat.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Some of you folks showed up early. War Budgies, good to see you. You got back from Boker Brawl. Looks like you guys are having some fun on the War Machine front. Happy to hear it. Mandragora, good to see you, man. Paul, thank you as always for being here. And, he's my moderator, so everyone has to be nice to him. And apparently my live stream didn't show up on the front page of subscriptions or whatever, which is pretty typical because YouTube just decides what it thinks you should like. And unfortunately, I'm not what you think what they think you should like. Wow, that was special.
Which, speaking of, you should click the like button so YouTube knows.
That's right.
Do that right now.
Just go ahead and click the like button. Tell YouTube, it needs feedback desperately to know that these are not videos you hate. If you don't hate it, click the like button. Let's see. Doing all right. Mix of hobby and video games going on. Me too, Paul. I kind of vanished over the last few weekends to all my friends and family because I've just been like re-diving into all things Zelda because the new Tears of the Kingdom game is coming out and I still haven't played Breath of the Wild, so I finally got myself a Switch as a late birthday present after years and years and years. Now I need to play Breath of the Wild so that I can jump into Tears of the Kingdom, but in the meantime I've been listening to all these wonderful deep dives on all the history of the old games I've been playing and just falling in love with the series all over again. It's so weird and wonderful. Anyway, so video games, yes. But then I've been wanting to get back to like the hobbying stuff, and there's all this 40K news that came out. So I've been like kind of writing out all the bullet points to, I mean, you guys may already know most of this, but we'll talk about it anyway. And then we can speculate as to how that may affect gameplay, both positively and negatively. Let's see, War Budgie's exhausted and good, back from Boker Brawl, and working on the next War Machine Hordes narrative season. Wow, nice. All right. I'm really glad the community's enjoying that one. War Budgies for sure. Welcome, Revok. Bonsoir, mammies. Mamie. That's right. It's French. You never pronounce the last 5 letters of the word. Shale, welcome, welcome. Thomas Grable, good to see you. Welcome to the chat. Stream Elements is running. Yay. J. Alex, good to see you also. Spaztech, what's up, nerds? What is up, nerd? Beautiful work on the turret. Yeah, so the turret, actually, Disembodied Voice can speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, that's I painted those. Yeah, they are what they are.
And that's him speaking to that. How did you do the camo? It's a neat camo look. You're very proud of your camo work.
Oh, well, I mean, it's just, well, what is it? You sprayed, it's a base coat of Xandri dust.
Mm-hmm, the Xandri
the
dust,
little
the
spray paint
GW
can.
base. Mm-hmm.
And then just painted on, I forget what the green is. Is it a Castellan green or a
I
Castellan
think it's
green?
Castellan green.
And then you have to go through with, I forget which one of the washes, one of the brown washes. I don't think it's
Agrax
sepia.
Earthshade?
I think it's Earthshade. And
The
you,
darker one. Sepia is the lightest.
Yeah, it's the darker one.
Okay.
And so you go through and you just do all the little cracks and crevices, and you go through and you just sort of, what's it called? It's like line washing, or I forgot the phrase for it. But you just kind of wash in just the little corners and stuff. And then I went in and dry brushed them with a little bit higher, lighter colors. And you know, where the green, it's a lighter green, I dry brushed, and where it's the Xandri dust, I did sort of I don't remember what I used, almost like a bone color, and just very lightly
Oh,
I
really?
think it was the bone
hit
light.
the highlights.
Wraithbone?
Yeah. And then, of course, there's, decals on it, which always make it look a little cooler.
The decals definitely add a lot, like the Cadia written on the back.
Yeah. And so, like, the decals, you have to put down, like, a base coat of...
The art coat.
Ard coat, yeah.
Yeah.
Then do the decal, and then I go over it again with... you
Is
can go over Ard coat again, and then
can.
do the...
Lathian medium?
Lamian medium,
think
whatever
it's
that stuff
Lathian.
is. Yeah, and so it still has a little bit of a shine, but then when I hit the whole thing with a dull coat, like a spray dull coat, when I'm done, then
It'll all
it'll knock
be-
a lot of that down and match it up a little better.
Beautiful. So those are the turrets, and then we just have to get the tank bodies
Yeah.
finished. In fact, most of my army is all painted. Like, I have so many beautiful, beautiful units, 2 gorgeous units of Death Corps, 2 gorgeous units of Cadian Shock Troops, 2 gorgeous, handsome units of my Catachan boys. There's another one. Oh, yeah, and Tempestus Scions also. So lots of them. It's just all my tanks need to get painted now.
Oh yeah. Also, the underside of that hatch that he has open is like a base color of kind of a white, an off-white,
There you go.
and because the inside of a tank, you always paint white so that you can see.
You can mount light around, because
Yeah.
probably using your little phone flashlight. That's what they use in the 41st
That's
millennium,
exactly
right?
what they use.
So-
Yeah. And so yeah, that's a lighter color. Even though it doesn't stand out so much, you can still tell.
Yeah, no, it looks good.
Painted the little man.
That's right. I left
I
the little
contributed.
dude up to Flo to paint.
That is some teamwork right there. I've got this awesome team of people painting stuff for me.
Well, it's one of the things we're doing with it is we're only painting so many tanks, but then painting like getting a whole bunch of turrets, even extra turrets from like the little bits on
Right,
eBay
to
and
swap
stuff.
out. So if you want to use your lovely Vanquisher cannon, or if you just want to have your battle cannon, or if you want a special modified battle cannon, the Relic battle cannon, I think, the one that you can get for command points. pretty nice. Oh, Gatekeeper, that's what it was called.
Yeah, so we have about twice as many turrets as we do tanks.
Yeah, it's great. So, you know, eventually the army will be mechanized, but right now all the foot slogging troops look great. So yeah, beautiful work on the turret. Thomas Grable fired up my smoker doing a brisket. Oh yeah, weather's getting warmer. Time to start some barbecuing again. That'll be nice. Mandragora had an impossible April. Oh no. I'm glad to see you here. Good to see you. I figured you've been busy as heck with Valhalla. Valhalla is like a lot of like early prep work and frustrations of people not getting back to you in time, and then like vendor stuff, and then like the last 2 months is really like,
But how is it again?
It's just trying to make sure everything has possibly been thought of, and you know, you wake up with the cold sweats and you're like, did I think about this? It's like perpetually thinking you've left the oven on because I get so paranoid about like missing something. I mean, it seems to work out. You think at some point I'd be more comfortable with it after 8 years, but no, I'm always like, I don't know, worried about it not going right. So.
What was it you're having last year? You're having dreams like in the weeks up
I
to
have
it, where
anxiety.
it's like,
I already had one this year. I already had one like a week ago. Like I
it's
always
like
have anxiety. dreams
Valhalla
about
had
Valhalla.
already started, but you haven't done anything for
Yeah,
it. So
it's
you're
the
like
quintessential dream of like the test, you know, where you wake up and there's a test or whatever that dream is. I've never had that one, but you have an exam and you show up to class and I guess you're in your underwear or whatever. I don't even know, but like you're not prepared. And so yeah, that's usually my dream is I wake up and I'm like, Valhalla's today, and I'm like, but I haven't even sent like the cook the menu. I haven't even like set the dates for like this other thing. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just, and I've had many anxiety dreams about Valhalla. Yep. It's one of my favorite and most stressful things in my life. Let's see. Is War Machine dead? I don't think so. War Budgies is working, like just got back from a whole event for it, so. Everybody keeps wanting this game to be dead. Like, you gotta stop, man. It's not gonna die. That's a good thing. Like, it's just probably rekindling a bit, but it's not dead. Welcome everybody joining at once, yes. Negative, it's rising from the proverbial ashes, exactly as Thomas Grable had said. Hello there, the new Stern Guard look bad. Do they?
So is it just me, or are they just regular? They're just regular Marines, but with like Primaris helmets, right? And the because they looked. I thought they were Primaris at first, and I looked at them. I was like, no, these look like regular Marines.
But is that a negative? Like I thought they looked perfectly fine. We were
I
talking
thought
about
they
the
were
Leviathan box set of all those the 25 new Space Marines or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, they
yeah.
looked. I don't know. I thought they looked cool. Like they look at least as cool as the Space Hulk minis.
Yeah, well, the Terminators do.
Yeah, the Terminators look pretty on point. The what was the one I was oohing and eyeing over?
Oh, the Librarian.
Was it the Librarian?
Yeah, yeah. Because he had the axe and the little hood over him.
No,
Because he even had the
no.
animation.
What was the other one with like the white paint job?
Oh, it was the Apothecary.
The Apothecary looked super cool. To me. Like, yeah, the Librarian was cool. Mostly I was just like, what is that weird helmet? But
Oh, I thought you liked him.
he was alright. But no, the Apothecary I thought looked really cool. Let's see. Maybe Mark IV has the new starter box sets and it has some backwards compatibility for anyone who thinks it's an Age of Sigmar style reboot. Maybe the last straw. Maybe. I don't know. Honestly, I think if Mark IV really was like the death of the game, it would have happened by now. But it hasn't. Like it hit a low point, and then I think it only has upwards to go, personally. But I mean, honestly, War Budgies can speak to that because he's been in it, writing narrative campaigns, because he's awesome, man. Plunderden, good. Welcome to the chat. Good to see you. Were you saying something?
No, it's all good.
Wow. Jay Alex, I smashed that like button and rang the notification bell. It's now set up. Don't worry, YouTube will just think that you hit that on accident. Undo it later. Don't forget Bretonia's back. Yeah, I saw the video of like one model And it's like, all right, like,
Well, it's not the models that you like.
yeah, I mean,
It's not all the pretty horses.
exactly. If I could just have like just the wild horses, like they're not even part of a faction. They're just like roaming gangs of wild horses.
They're just wandering monsters, like packs of horses that attack other people, like playing their armies.
You have to be careful on wild horses. They can be aggressive. So yes, that would be kind of fun. It would be funny anyway.
It'd be like you're stabbing unicorn.
That is an excellent toy I've got. Shale, getting the last 3 scenarios done for my Battletech campaign. A little rebalancing and an edit pass, and it'll be ready for public consumption. Very nice. Did you brown wash in your pants? Says Jacob. To who? Let's see, Plundered in. Let's see, J-Mac. I have a giant Cato army, and no one wants to play War Machine in my area after COVID. Well, that was an excuse, frankly. If you used that as an excuse to not play games, it's because they don't want to play games at all, or with whoever. So, anymore, that is an excuse. White decals pop better than darker subdued. Yeah, the white decals on here like have a good look to them, right?
I even actually went over with a light bit of wash over the white just because they popped too much. And so
so
I
you
kind of like
blended
knocked
it a
them
bit?
down just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you try to go for more of the
A little more of a lived-in
real,
look.
yeah, lived in, worn in look versus like that very poppy color.
It's the used universe.
J-Max, sorry to hear, man. I only ever collected and painted, so I could never tell. I just know I could get a lot of army material for half off since at least 10 years ago. True fact. My FLGS outright stopped carrying War Machine over the shipping and rollout of Mark IV, which is weird because I thought the rollout of Mark IV was way better than 3. Mike has Trets. Good for you. Let's see. I think I've painted Miranda a League of Assassins by now. I do. I've got all the Assassins by Paul. I've got my most recent one, the Deadpool-looking character. Is that the Eversor? But yeah, he was. No.
Sounds like a perfume line or something, like Assassins by Paul.
League of Assassins by Paul. It's more.
That sounds less like a perfume line.
I don't know. I would might have a League of Assassins perfume. I mean, just Assassins perfume sounds like it's really stinky, but League of Assassins sounds like you're some sort of femme fatale, right? And you're part of this exclusive club. So I personally lean toward that. Question, are you planning on putting a tank commander in Lehman Russ? Probably. I mean, we have basically any of the dudes that have any of the turrets that have a dude sticking out could be a tank commander, like as a good, easy visual marker. So I don't know why I wouldn't put it in a Lehman Russ. I guess one of the big questions will be what the Lehman Russ toughness characteristic is in 10th edition, as it does seem like all vehicles, at least the transports, are getting a huge buff to toughness. So it would be shocking if Lehman Russes didn't get one. Otherwise, what else would I really put him in? Shale, just now started to farm out paintwork. Haven't been able to bring myself to set up paint since rearranging my office. It is so nice. Like, even with Mr. Lord Solar here, part of me was just like, I don't know, maybe a paint. It's just one model. You make him look really cool and all that, and I'm like, who am I kidding? All that's gonna happen is he just doesn't get painted. That's literally the effect. Like, you gotta know yourself, right? And it's been a challenge this year to get enough time to balance hobby stuff with everything else. And so at the end of the day, I'd still rather just be able to play with the model. And having painted stuff is sweet. And having access to a talented person who can do it is also a bit of a benefit as well. So let's see, same here, Century Box. The world's largest gaming store does not carry War Machine anymore. We'll see, guys. We'll see. Do they carry things like Malifaux, out of curiosity?
Malifaux's been real hard to get for a long time now, too.
In game stores? Yeah, and that's hardly a dead game. Now, I mean, it's nice if it can be in a game store, but I don't know that that's the the test for if a game's alive or not.
Well, and like our game store is pretty decent at getting things, and they can't get any Malifaux.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Otherwise, I would have been ordering Malifaux models for like the little painting competitions they do.
Fair enough.
So what is it? Just their distributor doesn't carry it, or?
Yep. Like distribution was real bad. There's all sorts of
Huh.
issues they came up with when they came out with third.
Oh man.
I feel like if you're a game company at this point that's like maybe Privateer or Weird Miniatures or something, I almost feel like you need to set up some sort of like direct shipping that game company or that game stores can reach out to you or something, because I don't know, I hear game stores complain a lot about like the current what do you call it, like distribution company that sort of handles everything. Like they're not great.
Well, I wonder if distribution companies need more competition too. But it probably really depends on where your supply is coming from. If you order everything in from China, then is everybody who does that going to be stuck with the same level of unreliability at the distribution level? Because when you order from GW, they all make their stuff in England. Like, it's just all made there.
Well, I think it's the distribution centers, like for the U.S., right? And so everybody sort of, like they hold everybody's product, and then they ship out to other places. Like I used to work for one here in Albuquerque when War Games West used to be a distribution center, and yeah, I mean it's just what War Games West would carry, and then they had a relationship with game stores.
Yeah.
And so that way, game stores like, hey, I want some GURPS books, I want some Ralph Partha miniatures, I want some whatever paints, and they're all different companies, but just one distribution center ships it to the store.
Right, it
and so
centralizes the process.
well, they're not paying shipping, like lots of shipping for everything, so they can afford it more. But it seems like those distribution companies are not that interested in carrying War Machine or Malifaux or stuff like that, which is, I don't know why they wouldn't. You know what I mean? Like they seem like you should carry those.
I don't know. After the last 2 years, like availability of everything went down the toilet and got worse.
Well, there's that.
And as far as I can tell, most companies, at least companies that have been around a while, seem less and less interested in bothering with anything, bothering to provide things like service or products. Like, I strongly get the impression anymore that it's almost like being at a soup kitchen or something where they're like, you get what you get, go away. Like, I don't know, it's frustrating. So I sympathize with the game.
Yeah,
Stores.
it's fertile ground for up and coming companies right now.
Oh God,
I feel,
absolutely.
as long as
If
they're
you can
hungry.
get in, you can get in. Let's see here. Hello, Siobhan. Welcome to the chat.
What is it that he has to say?
He has to tell everybody? Okay, fine. It's been a while. So Siobhan, if you don't know him from the internet, anytime you talk to him, he will remind you about this one fact from 1998, when The Undertaker threw mankind off Hell in a Cell onto the Spanish Inquisition table.
Spanish announcer table.
Spanish Inquisition table.
Nobody expects that.
Nobody expected it. Spanish announcer table, which to this day I still can't remember if I actually saw live or not, because at the tail end of the 90s I was really, really into wrestling. Like, I loved watching WWF wrestling at the time. It was just a stupid drama, but I don't know, I thought it was cool. I watched too much TV, so I didn't get to go. Just saw the other Khador. Just saw all the Khador defending the city wall. Ooh, sounds fun. Mandragora, part 1. I haven't hobbied for a bit. Mom got sick and passed away in the middle of April, so I've been clearing out my home to sell it and move. Oh man, Mandragora, I'm so sorry. That is not an easy thing. Gosh, you've been having to move pretty fast on it too. I'm sorry, man. We can both sincerely relate. Mike, I'm painting more Deathcore of Krieg. My Deathcore of Krieg were easy. I just gave them to her. Beautifully. I was all like, this in that color, please.
Oh, 2 different colors.
2 different colors. I went with the dour I don't know, World War One, like military blue, kind of
Bluish
gray
gray,
blue.
yeah.
And then the other one was the more deserty, like sandy color. Oh, they look so good. Actually, we should grab some and throw them on the turntable if we can,
Oh, sure.
of each kind, so that we can show off this beautiful work. Part 2, but I've not gotten rid of anything. In fact, I'm planning to get a 3D printer and offer services locally in Tijuana, so more people can engage with STLs since they are more affordable. Ooh, segue. Have you guys seen my friend's Kickstarter for the Stone Trove thing? Those are all STL files. He's done quite well for it, but you know, he's in the last, 37 hours or whatever of the Kickstarter. Very, very cool. Totally worth checking out. He's really talented 3D modeler, so, and it's like a huge collection of rocks. So they're all organic, but you know, perfectly scalable, print on a FDM printer. We printed some. They look cool. We'll definitely be using them for Valhalla, especially since like the 3D printing thing, as much as I love resin printers, they're like amazing for like that really high detail work, but I do love the STL printers for the bed size, like how big they can get, because you can make such durable terrain, like terrain that you can paint up, seal it obviously, but like toss it in a box and it's not all crimped and crushed and destroyed the way foam would be, or anything more delicate, foam core, a lot of the stuff that we've always made terrain out of. Like 3D prints are just so durable by comparison. Just love it. All right, so yes, there's my lovely little deathcore boys. Don't they look amazing? And they've been so fun to play because I have med kits in both of their units, and they end up holding up. Especially since, what is it? I'm rocking a sniper rifle in one unit and a Melta, and the other one's a Melta, and I think maybe a plasma. Can't remember the other one, but beautifully. Like they do so well. Like they end up for some reason not dying. Everyone goes after the Cadian shock troopers first, and admittedly the Catachan do end up evaporating off the table, but the Deathcore, they stick around like, what do you call it? A bad penny or whatever. It's great. I love it. So good. Yeah, the new Apothecary was in Gravis armor. Yeah, that model looked awesome. I'm gonna paint my Signar like Geralda's painted the weird Warcaster dudes in purple white. I think I've seen purple Signar before. Don't go metallic with it. It looks weird, but I know it can work. It's just purple's such a strong color. So it's like, yeah, just be careful. I don't know, do what you want, obviously, but. Part 3, it's hard to sell people on $200 armies, but $40 printed locally and like spread across the area. With great looking stuff like Raging Heroes, Artisan Guild. I'm betting on it having a future. I think so. 3D printing is a weird animal right now. We were just talking about it the other day, because Disembodied Voice Thomas here is also a 3D modeler. And, you know, it's easy from the consumer standpoint if you don't necessarily know how something is made. Just be like, oh, it's only 3D printed. You just push a button and you get the thing you want. And you don't think about like the modeling work, the design work, like any of the...
Well, especially on FDM printers where you have to actually sand and...
Well, yeah, exactly. So when you're working on building props and prototypes and all of that, yeah, you hit the button and that's like half the job, because you have to either sand everything if you want sharp features, or you can use certain products like XTC from Smooth On to smooth over the lines, but it softens it, so you've got to choose what you want there.
Yeah, well, that's good for like organic things. Like
Yeah.
if you print off Tyranid terrain, then just use that stuff.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
lot easier.
Much easier.
But even with resin, you still have to clip all the little sprues and do the
You do. You have to clean it
the
up.
cleaning and all that stuff. Like it's still work, you know.
But I've also learned that if you make the consumer side do any bit of the labor, they always overestimate the value of their own labor for taking off little sprue bits and grossly underestimate the effort of you designing everything. There's that, which is also kind of funny. But so yes, I agree. Like 3D printing has an enormous value, and definitely has a place and a long future ahead of it. It's just going to take a little bit of balancing out to get people more acclimated to what 3D printing really means in practical terms, because you just hear it, it sounds much easier than the reality of it is. And maybe it'll improve to be super easy, but it's pretty easy now for what it is. But again, you have to do some work. You have to do the cleanup or the curing or whatever. Siobhan, I remember when I met Miranda for the first time, I brought up my YouTube app on her phone to show her I was subscribed to her, only to find out that YouTube unsubbed me at some point. Yeah, isn't that lovely? Mark IV has some new armies, New Khador, Signar, Orgoth, Dusk, which is the Retribution continuance, I guess. But also has rules for the Mark III armies. So it's not a world nuking reset like AOS. Yeah, it's the Legacy? Is that what they're called?
I believe so.
Yeah. And so there's a rule set that you can still play with all of your old stuff. The practical question of that just becomes, are people going to end up playing that rule set at conventions and events? And, well, I don't know. Like, was anybody playing any of the older stuff at, like, the Boker Brawl at all, War Budgies? Shale, I keep hemming and hawing about painting my 100 Kingdoms for Conquest. Knights with Heraldry give me some decision paralysis. That's fair. Brine Trolls look the best so far, or Dusk. Assassins by Paul sounds like an amazing cologne. Let's see, YouTube Underground. Am I the only one not a fan of the new pirate trolls? I miss my Scottish alcoholic trolls. Aw. Pirates are always kind of like a
Hit or miss.
Yeah, they really are. It's like, I always kind of liked the idea of pirate theme more than I tend to like the practicality of it. Like Scar from Crix, the pirate queen or whatever. It's like, yeah, that sounds really cool, but then you read her dialogue and she talks like a pirate and you're like, this is awful. Like, I can't do this.
Plus, ninjas are better than pirates.
And ninjas are better than pirates? Oh, okay.
That's been my long-standing policy.
Oh, okay. So it's ninjas versus pirates, I guess that's the
And
rule.
watch, what was that show that they used to have? Deadliest Warrior, where they pit the two against each other.
Yeah.
Oh, did they do a ninja versus
I'm
pirate
pretty sure
one?
they did.
I can't imagine pirates did well.
I don't remember. I don't remember that one. I do remember like the Jesse James versus Al Capone though.
Well, I feel like it would turn into a weird scenario. Like, do you ever see The Other Guys? You know, we talk about the lions versus tuna. You know, like the way that scenario plays. Because if the pirates stay on the pirate ships, then how do the ninjas get to them? And it turns into a whole like logistics question more so than like people's combative
Well, the ninjas
abilities.
would have had to have already been there. Like they would have snuck on. I mean, unless they airdrop from parasails or something.
Well, then the pirates have to have sailed next to a tall cliff, like in The Princess Bride.
No,
Then they
you
can
just
parachute
catch
down.
thermals. I've played those video games. There's thermals out on the ocean in random spots. And you just
Playing some Assassin's Creed, you know.
just catch them. It's like, isn't this how the world works?
Nobody questions all these fires, right?
This is why our current generation hasn't been able to successfully make anything, because we have the most broken view of how anything works.
No clue how actual physics
It's
operate.
like growing up with a farming simulator and you actually try to grow something yourself and you're like, this sucks.
Why does everything die?
God, this plant's so freaking meaty. Anyway.
What do you mean
like,
I
what-
watered it too much? I watered
like
it just as much as I did in Stardew Valley.
I watered it and I didn't see any debuffs on it. It should be fine.
And there's no little gnomes that come out at night and do anything for you. It's so disappointing. Life is such a harder sim. Anyway, that was a random outburst. Sorry. Latest assassin I painted for Miranda was the Heresy Clade Assassin to complete the set of 40K ones. I need the Psycho one. I've forgotten the name of it right now. The Calexis Assassin. So, yes, I've got a lovely collection of assassins that, instead of being part of my army set here, are literally at home at my sewing desk overlooking my my work. I don't know what that means necessarily, but they look so cool.
Well, how easily are they to integrate into an Imperial Guard army?
I haven't bothered, so I don't know.
I mean, they're Imperium, right? So theoretically,
they should
can?
fit in the keyword. I would think so, but
I don't
they'd be
actually
some sort of
know.
auxilia, I would think. Let's see. War budgies. Friendly reminder that Flo's a boss. Are you a boss? Are you your own boss?
I am the boss.
You're your own boss. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. Let's see. Mike, paint flow. The internet is screwing with everything. It is, all the time. My guy Dinger with the heavy-handed comedy in the new Bat Rep today. Okay. Paul, GW minis are all in Nottingham. Some terrain in Nottingham. Print, other terrain, and dice is China. Yeah, the books. I think the books are they printed in China? Other
No.
terrain. Yeah, I thought
No,
that was a
because
whole thing.
if you have
before.
stuff manufactured in China in your Games Workshop, then the bootleg stuff they sell is literally exactly the stuff you sent them to do.
Yeah,
It's
it
like the
turns
same
out-
company making the bootleg stuff.
IP laws are only as strong as the people willing to enforce them, and if you have a whole country with a billion people that go, we have a whole theme park of World of Warcraft, and they can't do anything about it. What are you gonna do? You know? So, Andrew, evening, TIL, the original plan was for Big Bird to be on the Challenger. Nobody expects the Spanish exist. Thank you. I'm glad everybody knows that reference. You mean French World War I uniform? I didn't, but if that's more accurate, then maybe.
Well, the French ones, don't they have the little red bands that cross
Oh,
them
they
in
may.
the front? If I'm thinking of the right one.
Is anyone else getting mic popping? Can you watch the mic and see if we're getting some craziness? We've learned that our microphone setup has some sort of weird code driver issue. I think.
Yeah, if there's a popping sound, it might be the driver issue. That window should be up.
It is, yeah.
So if you look at it, you can see if it's
Yeah.
trying to come in and out.
Well,
In fact,
it's on the output though. It's because that only worked when you had the speakers set up.
oh, I see.
Yeah, not really helpful here. I could be speaking too strongly into the mic, so maybe I'll just pop it down a little bit.
No, I wouldn't do that.
No? Okay. All right. I'm gonna listen to my sound guy. So if it continues to pop, just yell it. Disembodied voice.
Well, it's the software. We have to figure out which version of it works best with Windows 10, which is what we have on this machine.
Or just
Because
upgrade.
the most current version doesn't actually work very well with it, apparently, according to all the forums. And so people are rolling it back to previous versions. And we haven't figured out which one to use yet.
Because any sort of technical stuff always requires like some sit down, dedicate your time, do a bunch of research, and it's either resolved in an hour or 5 hours. You don't get to know. Roll that dice. Nathaniel, good morning from Germany. Good morning. Let's see, my audio started crackling. I thought it was my headset. So, do you want to just reset it real quick?
Yeah, let me reset it real quick.
Maybe that's a little bit better, hopefully. I don't want to hurt you guys.
Yeah, let me know if it keeps popping, because it's just the actual channels, like,
Software.
going away. Like, yeah, like Windows not recognizing them for a moment and then bringing them back up. And I don't know why it's doing that.
Technology being amazing. Patty's Parlor, almost home. Love from Parlor. Hey, Patty. Bombshell Miniatures. Yeah, digital sculpting is a little involved, right? But, I mean, if you ever only see the final product, and it's the bane of every creator, right? Like, you create something and you think it looks cool, and other people can think it looks cool, but most people, and it's not even necessarily like their fault necessarily, but like most people don't recognize how much work goes into making something. It just
Well,
it's just hard to know
like
when you see it.
any artist's
Yeah.
problem. Oh, we'll promote you if you do the work. Like, turns out it takes a lot of hours.
Well, usually for people that don't involve themselves in those processes, it's usually the simple tricks that impress like normal people the most. And then the stuff where it takes a lot of fine, like, skill and everything, normal people don't tend to even notice it.
The sound crackle does appear to be gone now, so.
In fact, we talked about that with Megan,
Uh-huh.
that her eyes, being the big eyes, are like one of the most simple effects. But everyone's just like, oh my God, her eyes, it's crazy.
Well, it's why if you are a creator, don't feel bad about making shortcuts. Like, again, people only ever see the end result. I mean, gosh, filmmaking is 100% that. It's like, as long as it looks right in the frame, a millimeter outside of it can be a dumpster fire, and it doesn't matter. Like, don't worry about trying to be legit by wasting your own time that no one's going to care about, because people are still only going to pay what they're willing to pay for it. So there's zero value in just agonizing over something unless it is for your own benefit. So the worst part of 3D printing is standing there and watching it for 8 hours. I bet you there are YouTube channels of just that, not sped up.
That's the new ASMR, is just the sound of little servos.
The FDM. Lord knows I've gone to sleep to that sound enough.
Well, it's almost
Channel
like,
idea.
for people who are of a different era, it's almost like watching a disk defrag, like in the old Windows 95 disk defrag
That
programs.
was legitimately a babysitter for me at some points. It's just so fascinating to watch it go from, was it like gray to green or blue to green or something to blue maybe.
Well, that's the more normal one where it shows it, but I mean the one where it actually goes line by line.
Yeah.
almost like a
They were
reading.
little
Were they colored?
rectangles.
I don't remember if they're
Yeah, they
colored or
changed
not.
color. And so I think it went to blue at the end.
I just remember you'd see gaps, and it would fill the gaps.
You'd see the gaps and it would move stuff over. And you're like, I don't know what this means. And you realize later it's moving disk space or whatever. But, and you're like,
Where you're sitting there looking at it, you're like, oh my God, I've been here for 10 minutes. Like, what am I doing? You got to get up and leave.
That's what's that channel, the Chive or whatever? Like we go to the Slice Parlor restaurant and they have those videos of just people doing things and some
Oh, yeah,
step-by-step process, and you just find yourself staring at people making pizza or people
Well, people
fixing a
doing
chair, just
everything, or
mundane.
how to tie a knot a certain
There
way,
you
or
go.
how to like cut a strawberry into a cube, or like just random weird stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Just weird pointless stuff. So, Warbudgies was asked about how the Boat Crew Brawl went, which, by the way, is a War Machine event. It was awesome, man. Ran the siege scenario like 4 to 5 times. Took the entirety of Thursday. Love it. Mandragora, yeah, it's very time consuming, but it's still better and cheaper to print the really special stuff like 40K Knights and especially terrain. Oh, terrain, I feel like 3D printing, I think, wins the day in terrain pretty much immediately. With miniatures, that really comes down to what you can get a hold of, and there are some fantastic artists out there making miniatures available for print. But I think when it comes to miniatures, people still want their IP, and so GW really doesn't have a lot to worry about because you're still going to want, like the only time people I think are really going to 3D prints instead of GW is to get stuff they literally can't access otherwise. But most people are probably still going to pay for GW stuff because they want the GW thing, not the off-brand. But then there's going to be people who don't care, and there's some really cool stuff out there. Like I love watching all that.
People who want to actually compete in the likes, and they have to use GW stuff, otherwise they're not.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, the tournaments will filter a lot of that stuff out. I do wonder how much training TOs are even going to have, though, to recognize what every single model.
Well, they would recognize like if you go
They'd
on.
recognize the paint Titans, but-
Well, it's like the off brands, where you're like, oh, these guys are kind of like Terminators, and
Yeah.
they're similar enough. Or like I know DJ has several Necron things that aren't actual Necrons, but you look at them and they look like Necron, but I'm sure the TOs would recognize those pretty quick.
Get out. Richard Kilton, hey Richard! That's why you just dump trash on a base and it's an orc house. Yep. literally coming from the mouth of one of the top orc players in the world right there. So it's basically gospel, guys. Akalis Rain, welcome. Yeah, Boker had a ton of Mark III armies. Grimkin wrecked absolute face. Ah, I do still love my Grimkin. Oh, they just came out as one of the best armies. Ask Flo how she painted the black helmet on the desert Deathcore Krieg.
It's your favorite paint, Miranda.
It is. It's, yeah, it is that one, right?
Wrought iron?
Yeah, it's this really cheap paint that I found one time, and I don't even know if they still sell it, but it was called wrought iron, which is an off black. And it looks so good because, you know, it's an apple barrel paint, I think.
It's like
Yes.
Folk Art or Apple Barrel. It's one of those.
It's one of the cheapy paints, like $1 or whatever. Well, in this market, like $2 now, I guess.
Folk art.
It's folk art. Okay, that one right there. See if I can get this. That one right there is how it got painted. Oh, I don't have the autofocus on. So if you can read that, that says wrought iron.
Yeah, it looks like that little paint pot's been around for a little while.
It has been around a little while, and it's basically dead. But I've learned that lithium medium and a little booger of that, you mix it up enough, you can kind of resurrect the paint. But it gives you this beautiful off black color, which on its own has like a weird greenish tint, and it's kind of streaky, so you got to put some layers on. But the magic happens when you put a wash on it. And
Wash, and then you dry brush.
you dry brush with the wrought iron again?
I dry brushed with the lead belcher.
Lead belcher. Okay, so
Just to give it that little bit of worn look.
okay, so you added that layer to it. But what happens, because this will give you a cool, like a black, you can see that's not just a negative space on a miniature, right? And if you just do the wash and you don't do anything else, it looks very leathery. And then what Flo did, she dry brushed the lead belcher on, which is the silver, and that gave that extra worn look, which comes off beautifully. But anyway, basically, yeah, it's an off black. In this case, it has a green tint. I don't know how important that part is, but it seems like it's warmer rather than cooler, if that helps. Let's see, the Chimera are definitely the Horde ninjas. All right. Andrew Fairbanks says pirates win against pirates because of guns.
Against ninjas.
Against ninjas.
Well, guns are only better than swords and knives if you know your enemy's there at all.
True. Get the drop
So
on
if they just,
somebody.
like a ninja sneak up on you, then you never fire your gun because you're alive thinking little pirate thoughts and then you're dead.
Or if the ninja throws out a little rice ball and you go, ooh, and you stop to eat the filthy rice that's now on the ground, and then it's the end.
And they just jump down behind you and then that's it.
Callous Rain, my headcanon is enough, no proof needed. Also One Piece, greater than Naruto. Don't start an anime fight in here. You all know all anime sucks. Just blanket statement.
Just all of it.
All of it, even the stuff I like sucks.
Much to Flo's consternation.
It's just my default position. I've been surrounded by people, especially like through the Media Glitch group. I remember going to tea with a couple of girls, because we have like tea houses around here or whatever, and all they would do was talk about anime, and I was so bored. I think at one point I just blurted out, I'm like, I don't know, anime sucks. Anyway. So, just the surly one. And recognizing that there's probably good stuff out there, and I've probably seen it, I just kind of don't care.
Oh, there's definitely good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like musicals. They just suck by default unless they're good.
Just so much of it. Now everyone's into all these, what is it, like Korean soap operas? That's what everyone's talking about? K-dramas, yeah.
They've been around for a long time.
Yeah, they have. But
I remember learning about them because Matt's by Mars, Mario, like years ago, I think the first time we saw him at Adepticon, he talked about how his wife would watch them a lot.
Yeah.
And that was 8-9 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. That was quite a while ago. I don't know. I grew up in New Mexico, and so of course we had like a Spanish station, so I would watch Spanish soap operas. I thought those were awesome. Yeah, they were wild. Like
Was it like Mujeres Asesinas?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the assassin one. They were just like, even though even I didn't understand like the language, just watching it as a kid, I knew it was going on because everybody emoted so strongly. It was great. Let's see, Thomas, just finished painting barriers and spike traps for War Machine, 4 of each. Everyone's talking about War Machine in the chat today. Is it because I put Warhammer as my topic? Is that what you all are doing? Or is this a hint?
It's a little pushback.
A little
That's what it
pushback.
is. Oh, that's cool. I always loved, I was getting really excited when No Quarter was putting out a lot of those additional
Yeah, the
rules for
scenarios.
like jack traps
Yes.
and like
Oh,
barbed wire
yes.
patches, and I was getting real excited about those. Like
The
those
cool
are really
shields for the like Menoth siege.
cool.
Yeah, they had the little
tower shields, I think.
yeah, tower shields, and then the guide for getting for making the little train beats. It was brilliant. No Quarter was great. Jacob Fisher, can we all agree the stern guards showcased in the Leviathan starter box are not unique from the normal Space Marines?
Well, the helmets are different, aren't they? And I wonder about their scale. I feel like they're going to be a little bigger. Like,
It seems like they've been moving toward bigger, but
yeah.
so they're probably different in somewhat inconsequential ways. But yeah, you mentioned the helmet difference. Maybe the helmets are different. Napneal, assassins are agents of the Imperium. The rules are called that, but this will change in 10th ed. Yeah, we'll see. Keyword stuff makes me happy. I collect and paint, but don't play. I have World Eaters and Cordon Demons and Cultists and Chaos Knights. And I have third-party prison inmates and demons. Just be cool. We are getting some craziness. That's an understatement, right? Paul, I still have got the 2nd edition Assassin Codex. Assassin Codex? Wow. Let's see, since it's Star Wars Day tomorrow, here's a fun fact. Darth Vader is not actually his real name. His full name is Bartholomew Space Invader. But not Invader Vader, which would have been my choice, but whatever. Let's see, I remember, disc defrag, Tommy's old. Shush, shush, Richard, shush. I loved defrag. I also loved degas my monitor. Huh, I don't remember that part.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah,
Jeremy, welcome.
degossing. Like, I think
Degossing?
there was even a button for it where you would have it degoss, like, for your monitor. It's a CRT monitor thing.
But what does that mean?
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember now. Because it had to do with how the tube was aligned and like, I think like not a phase, but it would reset. It's basically kind of like a reset for it that you would have to do.
To make the image sharper or to remove lines? Or...
Good question.
Okay.
I vaguely remember degossing, and I'm trying to remember exactly what that was doing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that one I don't know. Defrag went from red to blue, sort of, to green. Oh, okay, so green was the final. Yeah, I remember the red were like fragmented bits, and there was like stuff that was fine, and then I guess the green was stuff that had already been approved, checked, fixed, whatever. Yeah.
And I guess blue was whenever it was in a temp space, as it was like combining, so it was clearing space to then put them in their final location.
Maybe. I don't know. I mostly remember the staring at it more than I obviously remember the details of it. William Wang, speaking of Legacy, do you see yourself going back and playing with your old armies in Legacy? You know, that really depends. I mean, one, I know that, like Grimkin, for example, all of the limited factions moved forward into Mark IV. So I can just play my old armies in Mark IV for the most part. Khador is the one that took the biggest model loss moving into Mark IV from what I currently have. But I mean, the Mark IV rules seem fine. As far as just playing Legacy stuff, there's supposed to be a rule set for that, and I haven't really reviewed it. But just like any game, it's going to depend on what people around me are playing. So if there was an event that got together and had, I don't know, 5 to 20 people or something who all wanted to just play that edition, then yeah, sure. Like, I think that would be a good time. It just seems like it would be hard to get players to start, in from that. You'd have to have people that kind of already played in the old edition wanting to still continue to do it. And it's been hard to find that locally. watching disc defrag. I'm glad that the whole chat could come together about disc defragment. It really tells me
Disc
that we're
defrag
all in exactly the same age group.
It's bringing the world together
Bringing the
here.
world together. Disc defrag. They need to. I feel like they should just bring it back as like an app, a screensaver. Actually, I have wanted that as a screensaver. We've talked about that before. Let's see. Hey, Jeremy, or should I say War God Gaming? Yes, that's right. You've got your new thing out. Let's see. Budgies, did you do a PDF for the narrative? Let's see. There's an entire page on the Book of Faces, Facebook, called 40K print, and you can totally see hundreds of people printing their entire armies. Yeah, and you will have that. I'm still pretty sure most people still buy their armies, print them, but there's always going to be that market.
I still remember old White Dwarfs where they actually had templates in it you could cut out, and they wanted you to trace it onto cardboard and then put them together, and you could make orc vehicles. And so
goodness.
it's a different world.
So War Budgies said that it'll be free, posted on the Warhammer Hordes groups and the War Budgies page. Jeremy is in the process of editing his first battle report. Took
Nice.
a bunch of photos to splice into the video, but they were oriented wonky when I put them into the video software. Now I'm like, do I need to go back? And retake these photos. Honestly, that's where software, like, you have the question of free software when it comes to video editing and how limited it can be. I still think you might want to explore DaVinci. It seems like it's a pretty cool program, and it's becoming more standardized. But if you're using free software and it wants to just waste all your time by importing things in a weird way or exporting in weird formats by default, where you're constantly having to fix stuff, then it's going to put you off making videos. Miranda needs to watch Chainsaw Man. I have a little Chainsaw Man mini. I have a reject mini that Paul sent me because he has his 3D printer. Yeah.
I want to see this.
Okay.
I have seen Chainsaw Man. Unlike the other two, I do watch anime.
That's part of why I ridicule anime in her presence. It's what good friends do.
Yeah, just like she ever mentions pickles and I make a funny face, I mention mushrooms, she makes a funny face,
Exactly. You gotta rub off each other. It keeps you sharp, Friends are friction.
So you have to comment about it.
Let's see. Mention anime and Miranda instantly becomes the grumpy old man.
So is she Waldorf or Statler? Which one?
I don't know. Either one. My mom loved them both, so I accept either. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Anime sucks, and she was never invited to tea again. That's actually true.
That's great.
But, it was a mutual decision. Oh, God, you grew up on the telenovas. Did I need to point out the telenovas are hell videos? Telenovelas are hell videos? Or hell? No? I have not seen that. Or are you talking about a series of videos, Mandragora? I want to know. So, like, every Latino woman... Sorry, Boca Brawl was over the weekend and it's been hype. No, it's all good, man. I appreciate that everyone's enjoying it, frankly. Hey there, I finally got my hands on the setting book for the Iron Kingdoms. Nice. It's still a fun setting, although the older lore is significantly stronger. Anvil Industries, I remember them when I wanted to get some custom pieces like their Trojan and backpack communicator set. Never did because of prices, though. Jeremy said they're for sure primary scale and they have flowing robes. I like them, but I still don't want to play 40K. Also, I didn't check the title, and I don't know anything about 40K. Well, that's all right. This is a hobby channel generally, anyway. Honestly, it's really nice to see all the love. Usually, it's the other way. If I'm talking about War Machine, then people are like, "Hey, what about that 40K thing?" And it's like, okay. So it's like, I just feel like I misstep every time where I'm like, all right, I'm talking about this today. And then everyone's like interested in the other thing. But turns out both are cool. And you know what? So are a lot of the others. People still talk about Infinity. And I'm still pretty sure it's a cool game that I'm just not willing to play. Let's see, they did twice. All right. DGOS removed unwanted magnetic effects. LCD plasma doesn't ever need it. Oh, fancy pants. Jeremy, I tried DaVinci today. It took 3 hours to install. Oh, gosh. And then I was at a total loss because I couldn't find a good tutorial. Oh, really? There's a bajillion tutorials on that.
Well, he
Maybe
was probably
Tommy can help
searching
me.
for it, so therefore it didn't come up.
Well, yeah, there is that.
Yeah, it'll be a few months before Google understands that, and then they'll start suggesting really good tutorials to you.
That
have
were
the
made like a year ago.
Yeah, that were made years ago and had the exact same keywords that you searched for and weren't able to find. Because
Yeah.
that's how Google works.
Degaussing had something to do with removing unwanted magnetic fields. Wow, I learned something new here. Paul, on getting my 3D printer at the end of March, my first print was a 3 by 32 mil Chainsaw Man Mini. And they did not fully form. I have two, and I got one of them. So he's a little bit underdeveloped, let's say. Telenovelas Are Hell is a hilarious series where they abridge the plot and scenes of the novellas for the amusement of English-speaking cultures who are just so different. They're as bad as wrestling. I'm all in. I'm going to look that up after the chat. Dave, hey, Miranda, the deathcore took out some of my intercessors once. They did, and they were kind of surprising how like crunchy they were because they've got that rule where they can ignore the first wound roll, and it seems like nobody wants to really bother with the deathcore. Again, they want to focus on like the Cadians or my Catachan, so it works out great. They're just cool, and they look awesome, so you know it's wonderful. Mandragora, as soon as I get my 3D printer, I'm printing some alternatives to the Chaos War Dog Knights. I want to have a full household for my Chaos Lord alter ego. Ruben, Imperial Guard hype. Woot. Excited to see how 10th shakes out. Looks good. Yeah, I'm curious. I guess we could actually start talking about some of those rules now that I've been blabbing for an hour. They can be powerful. I still remember the Alpha Strike. Dude, Imperial Guard Alpha Strikes are brutal. That was a brutal game. You had amazing sportsmanship, so thank you for that. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about some of the 10th edition rumors and all of that. So we know that there's this 300 plus page rule book coming out with the Leviathan box set, which will have the 10th edition rules. Now, you need not stress buying a $245 box set to get those minis if you just want the rule set, because supposedly the release this summer is supposed to provide the rules and indexes to everyone for free. When exactly that hits, I don't know. The Warhammer website, their video said June for the Leviathan box set, so it seems like the rule set would drop pretty shortly after that. I could see them giving a couple of weeks to give people with the FOMO the opportunity to buy out the box sets just to get the rules in hardback, but I don't expect people to have to wait too long before they get access to those rules. So my guess is mid to late June. That's my Johnny Carson prediction. But just walk in front of the camera. What are you doing?
What, I'm crossing camera.
Oh my gosh, the unprofessionalism around
It's
here.
crazy. I thought they said they were going to drop the free online rules at the same time, like probably the same weekend.
Oh, really?
I don't know. That's what I thought.
weird.
Because usually they'll probably print a rule book that they sell, but that'll be a month or two later. But I feel like they're going to want, like for tournament and just for regular players, I think they're going to want to get the base rules out because I think they're supposed to be fairly different.
Well, and that's some of the stuff we were going to talk about. There seem to be some changes that are more major than others. I suspect most of the changes you're going to see are in consolidations of abilities, which I'm fine with because there's so many damn models to keep track of, and you know what ends up being one character's benefit, there'll be a similar benefit with a different name on another model. Like consolidating that stuff makes a lot of sense if they do that, which is of course the question. Let's see, they focus on the Cadians who got blowed up. They did get blowed up. It was brutal. See, I do really want to get into resin printing when I get to Alaska. I thought you were already in Alaska. When are you actually heading out, War Budgies? I also tried KDen Live. But then after installing, there's no launch function for it. Me, I lost both the Sicarian and a Gladiator before they even fired a shot. Yeah, I mean, and alpha strikes in 40K have always been brutal.
I still wish they'd switch over to the way Bolt Action does it. Like theirs is great.
The dice pulling, yeah, that's
Dice
really
pulling
good.
and then alternating activation that way. Like it's 40K's needed that for years and years, decades.
I don't see that change coming for.
Oh,
a
I'd probably
long time.
not. Like I think they're stubborn that way.
Yeah, I think that's a deal breaker. And if I can find an STL for the Knight Porphyrion, the 3D printer will have paid for itself. Can't compare a $200 printer and a $30 STL to an $800 resin model. The 3-week printing estimate is scary, though.
Oh, wow. If you can find a model for a Porphyrion, let me know, because I would print one of those too. Those are cool and very expensive.
Ruben says, I think it's going to go over really well. Pretty stoked. I suspect so. Liam, I heard they are simplifying stratagems for armies. I hope some former stratagems are unit army rules now, like Fire and Fade from my Drukhari. Oh, yeah. Paul said I heard drop 10th and index on the same day. Okay, well, if that's the case, then pretty quick. June 4th pre-order, June 11th release. Okay, so mid-June we have, early to mid-June we have that. So, and if it's being free, then I guess that's bad for Wahapedia. They'll have been made possibly obsolete.
I don't know.
No,
They're probably more organized.
I actually really like their layout. It's true.
well, their layout's good,
And
but they also,
update.
Yeah.
well, they keep up with the updates,
They generally
which
are,
is the
yeah.
big thing for me, because it's like, I don't know what rules changes they've made. And it's like, I just want to go to one place and know what the rules are.
Which is the downside to the printed stuff, because it's stuck in time and you don't know without actively researching for FAQs.
So sort of. I mean, War Machine did that just fine. They just had better tested rules coming out, and then they just didn't change them. And then
War
there you
Machine has
go.
always had hands down the best rule set, frankly, for a game. Like, I am super glad that that is honestly the first rule set I deeply learned, you know? Because everything else has been easy by comparison, if a little frustrating due to where you find the information. Like, that just seems like a bureaucratic frustration. Ruben, just like with 8th, a lot of folks I know locally are excited with the prospect of the indexes. They're buying new kits and getting ready to jump back in. Oh, no doubt. And I suspect there's going to be a big boon in sale of transports due to the toughness increase on that. More budgie's been up to close on the house and get the keys. We move next month. Ooh, exciting. Patty's got to finish my War Machine Heartbreaker rules. I just need to come up with the army list. Jeremy, I think they'll be the same day because the next month they're putting out codexes. Okay. Paul with 10th, I just want some new Terminators and Tyranid Screamer Killers. As the original model is one of my favorites ever.
Now, the Screamer Killer, I mean, that's just the Carnifex, isn't it? Like, it's been around forever. It's got those 4 scythe arms, and it
Yeah,
has
now
this
it's like a new
sonic
scope.
weapon.
Yeah.
But everyone keeps calling it a Screamer Killer now, but I thought that was a Carnifex.
Well, in the video they call it a Screamer Killer, so
Yeah.
it may just be a new model that, I don't know, unless the Carnifex is being replaced. Which Carnifex is a way cooler name than Screamer Killer, so I hope that's not the case. But.
Maybe I'm using the wrong name. Carnifex is what I thought it was, though, because I remember it's been around forever.
Still need Wahapedia for AOS. Fair point. Love how they're saying they're reducing the amount of rerolls, and almost every unit reveal has rerolls on it. That sounds right. Let's see. But then you told me you and War Machine divorced. Ooh. Oh, grats, budgies. Let's see. I for sure didn't buy in. I'm in a group that shares files, but I do have it. Just double checked. Mandragora, I just checked out Amdil's catalog. Not bad, but it's on the higher cost end for what I look for in STLs. Not really any of the chaos stuff I've wanted, but overall it's pretty good. Nice. It's called a Screamer Killer because the old 2nd edition Carnifex model, that was modeled screaming. Really? Huh.
Well, I even remember it had a spray template, like, sound weapon that it had too at the time.
Oh, because like a sonic blast.
Yeah.
Well, I know some of these you may be already familiar with. There was an announcement because at Warhammer Fest, I guess there was like a gameplay preview that people could watch. And so people were sort of jotting down the new changes they saw. There's a change to blast. So now for every 5 models in the target unit you're shooting at, you gain 1 additional attack die. So it's like D6 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, however many, up to how many blocks of 5 models you're shooting at. So that probably overall is a boost. I mean, you have a minimum number of shots that you're getting in the current edition of hits, I should say. This is just more attack dice, I think.
More Budgie just said he's heading out.
Oh, I'll get back to you. All right, well, take care, War Budgies. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in, and I'm so glad Bo Curveball was a success. So, good luck on, or I hope you have a lot of fun writing the next narrative campaign. Ah, yes, the 4-hour queue to try 10th at Warhammer Fest. Oh, goodness, seriously? Yeah. So that was one of the changes, the blast. The objective markers had a change, which reminded me of War Machine. And honestly, every edition since 8th has reminded me of, I just feel like they read War Machine rules and actually like incorporated them. Force organization charts or theme rules. Keywords were absolutely a thing from War Machine. And now you can't end your movement on objective markers, which is also a War Machine rule. And I know it's other War Games rules too, but it probably makes sense.
I like that better because then you can actually model physical objectives and they look cooler.
Well, yeah, and we talked about that before because you want to have like a little data kiosk or a computer hub or a satellite or some cool thing that I guess fits the footprint of what an objective marker base would be. But now technically you can still move over it. So it's going to be like a War Machine flag where you can move over it, but you just can't end your movement on it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
I
the
like
argument for it, which I think makes sense, is that way you can't kind of hide objective markers under big fat models. And it makes it where people can see it. And it probably helps TOs to know as well, like if you're within range on objective marker. Objective markers are sticky now. Yeah, I mean, I guess if that's how you'd call it. Like, they're corporeal, basically, now. Overwatch had a major change. So instead of only being able to overwatch in charge, now you can overwatch in like the movement phase. As soon as the model moves into range of your dudes, you can opt to overwatch against that unit. So that will be interesting. You still get your once per turn overwatch shot, and it still costs the 1 CP. And I guess they're pretty firm on the limit of you only getting 1 CP per turn, so you have to manage those resources. But it offers a bit more flexibility in that now people are going to have to watch where they're moving a little more, and it's not just controlled by if you're the target of a charge. So War Machine's trying to move away from zones, and GW moved toward it. Well, they've always had the objective markers as far as I've been playing. I mean, it's just they're a little bit more, I don't know, corporeal is really the only word I kind of have for it. Plundered, I just got my pizza delivered from Domino's, and they gave me cinnamon icing instead of marinara. This could be interesting. Overwatch as soon as in range is kill team arena rule. Nice. Okay, yeah. Excited to use my actual 3D GW objective markers. Right, Ruben? Exactly. Like, I feel like you can make the board a lot prettier now, too.
Well, I feel like instead of zones, I feel like the next direction to go is just creating like ruins with a certain footprint or a building with a footprint and actually like, I don't know, I like the idea of actually interacting with more things. One of the things I didn't like about War Machine was it looked like you're playing on a basketball court or a soccer field or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just too many little zones and squares and rectangles, and it's just like,
yeah,
let's
everything's
not do
too laid out, which was exemplified in Guild Ball, which was like the hotness for the War Machine base for a few years, although I think it's gone now, which is just arena. And it's like, it was always not it never meshed well with like the lore of the game. Just like, oh, we need to take, we're in this sort of medieval fantasy environment of steampunk, and oh, here's these zones laid out as meticulously as can be. So, whatever. Have you taken a gander at the new campaign scenarios for Mark IV? I haven't yet. I'll have to take a peek back at that stuff. I haven't circled back around to it in a while. My app only updated, like, I think I updated it like a month ago, and I hadn't even logged into it yet. So I need to get, again, back around to it. It's not time management, task management has been dubious. But yeah, so the Overwatch thing is really, really cool. I think that will offer a lot more advantages for the shooting armies. Fight phase. This is interesting. So in the fight phase, the way I read it is you do your charge and all your stuff like normal. In order to be in engagement, you have to touch the base of the model that you are fighting, a model in the unit that you're fighting. So when it comes back around to the fight phase, if you're in base contact with an enemy, you can fight them, duh. But also any models that are in base contact with your fighting model can fight them, is the way I read that. So that will obviously encourage more piling in and give some advantage to maybe special models that have a bigger base and then have little base models that can follow in after them. That would be kind of interesting. Consolidation changed. Now it's a little bit more strict. You have your 3-inch consolidate. It's only allowable if it puts you either in control of an objective marker or in engagement range, or base to base, approximately, asterisk, of an enemy. So that one will be cool, because instead of it kind of being used to run interference, you have to kind of maybe watch where you're putting those models to begin with. So, yep, Guild Ball dead. They killed it too soon. Huh. I think you'll be surprised by the new direction. I am curious to see. I'm curious based on if you think they're getting away from a lot of the zone stuff, and I want to see what that's about. Twisted Bishop. Few people know that Tolkien's original title is Lord of the Circles and Rectangles. It's true. True fact. Twisted Bishop. He always views true things. Desperate Escape is also an interesting one, especially since the Screamer Killers, or Screamer Stabbies, whatever those Tyranids were called, have an interesting ability, along with several of the other new Tyranid models, where they trigger leadership tests. So there's a thing called Desperate Escape, which applies if a unit fails a morale check. So you have your loss, you have your whatever triggers a leadership test. If they fail it, that unit now has a status called Battle Shocked. And then from there, if they choose to move back, that is called Desperate Escape. And for any model you have moving back or falling back, they have to roll a die, and on a 1 or 2, which I'm amazing at rolling, they flee the battlefield. So I feel like that's designed to resolve gameplay a little faster.
I'm a fan of leaning into more and more psychology rules. Just make them more interesting and engaging instead of just roll a die. Okay, that guy's gone now. He might as well be dead.
I don't like that. Yeah, I feel like it's. I don't know. Is there any game we've seen where psychology rules were handled? Bolt action, actually. The pinning.
Bolt action has
the
pretty
pinning
good
rule
ones.
had actually really solid. Bolt action has the most solid psychology rules I think I've seen or experienced in a game.
Turns out Bolt Action's a pretty good game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super solid game. Like, definitely recommend Bolt Action. But like a lot of other games, they tend to be kind of clunky with the psychology rules. And when you're thinking of a war game, like I think it would be a pretty significant element of playing said game. But yeah, it'll really. Is that going to be applied to everything? Is a Space Marine just as likely to flee because of that 1 or 2 rule as an Imperial Guard?
That's like the whole mantra you repeat over and over again is that they know no fear. And it's like, well, they know slightly less fear than other units is really it. And it's like, come on. And so like that should be the bonus of some units, right? Like, I mean, undead, right? When you'd play fantasy games, they would move as fast, but they're just immune to psychology rules. And so you're like, oh, that's interesting. You know, like they play differently. And Space Marines should be the same way. Like they only do what's tactically correct and they never fail morale, right? And that should make them kind of worth more points. And, you know, they're always reliable.
Yeah, it's just then you have to balance
like-
out how you take them out, I guess.
Or things like conscripts are just looking for a
Yeah,
way
like
to get out.
they
right?
want out like any reason for sure.
Conscripts and grots.
It's a mixture of old zones and newer stuff to speed of, let's see, especially in the Blackforge stuff. No, I'm going to check it out for sure. I'm going to check out the telenovelas are hell videos and the new War Machine scenarios. That's my homework tonight, and I'm excited to do it. Elegance of play, when it translates to speed of play and meaningful decisions, is a huge deal. It's hard to balance meaningful decisions being a really big part
I
of it.
agree,
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
And like, whenever you play War Machine, you are always hedging against your dice. And the 2d6 system tended toward a much less swingy game than you might deal with as, you know, compared to D&D on a D20 or 40K, everything on a D6. So, yeah, being able to make meaningful decisions while also dealing with the chaos of battle, which would be those random elements and things just not working, because that is life. Like, that's, you know, a decent representation of, like, the chaos that you deal with. I love that.
Well, I've always said that like real warfare is equal parts engineering problems to overcome and psychology
To also
master,
overcome.
To overcome.
Yeah.
Like that's all warfare has ever been.
Shadow of the Warp ability looks like it'll be super strong, potentially turning off objective control for a whole turn. Yes, please. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like in gameplay, because we're going to have the free rule set, and then 3 months later, like an FAQ come out? Because a lot of the Tyranid models have, again, effects that are just going to trigger on hit a leadership test. And it does seem like something like Space Marines should probably be immune to psychology tests from Tyranids, especially like Ultramarines, if they're like the quintessential.
They spend hundreds of years in just like propaganda chambers, like constantly.
Right. It's like this, they shouldn't have the nearly same chance as well, there's no conscripts in the Imperial in
the new
in
version.
the Guard right now. That's not an option. So. Whether or not that comes back, I don't know. So yeah, Desperate Escape seemed like that will be a major deal. And then there was a bunch of streamlining stuff that supposedly happened. So like cover has been theoretically clarified. Cover now has specific categories. Your crater rubble, barricades, debris, hills, woods, and ruins, and there's probably going to be more. And so depending on what classification that terrain is categorized in, it has the specific rules on when cover applies. And cover has also been changed where it seems like if a model has a 3-up save already, they don't get a bonus against AP 0 weapons. And so the idea, I guess, is that they'd only get the cover bonus if there was an AP of -1, then they'd get it. But it's still not going to be better than a 3. So basically in cover, unless you already have a higher benefit anyway, you're not going to get better than a 3-up save from that. So it will make things a little bit more fatal. And I don't know. I don't think I explained it well. It feels like a little bit of a difficult rule to explain. But as I told Tommy earlier, it's like, yes, it's streamlining for what it is, which is already a somewhat complex rule set because the nature of these types of games. Space Marines do not fear, they do not retreat, they advance in the opposite direction. Thank you, Andrew, for clarifying that.
And if they roll a 1 or 2, they advance a little faster than others. Is that?
just watched Auspic's Tactics on the new Screamer Killer stats. It'll be nerfed fast, but I think they'll adjust Tyranid stats before Space Marines to keep sales going. I'm sure Space Marines have always been the highest selling models, right? Oh, I love Auspex. He does a great unit play-by-plays. His voice is oddly relaxing, like a glass of warm milk before bed. Yeah, Auspex Tactics is good. I can understand why psychology rules fell out of favor, but fear rules are some of the best fluffy rules. It was sad to see Crix lose them back in the day. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you need to have more engaging rules instead of just, well, I don't know, roll to see if they can't activate next turn, right? It's a little too Boolean.
They were so brutal. Oh god, my Widowmakers. Unit of 4, you lose 2 models because that was half your unit.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you'd lose them periodically for the rest of the game, potentially.
Where it's like, if you can do things like pinning, or if it's harder to give them orders, or if it actually like can affect their movement, if it just does like a myriad of different things, and then you kind of gamify that a little bit, then you create like an engaging gameplay around the psychology instead of just, well, roll a dice and you hope you roll well, or else that whole unit is just pointless next turn.
Yeah.
You know, like that was too, again, it's too Boolean and way too punishing
Yeah, exactly.
for like a single die roll. I mean, I think that was, what was it, I always heard it as the leaf blower list that Imperial Guard had like several editions ago, where they would just roll forward, cause enemies to break, and then because they kept advancing, it would just keep, like they couldn't, rally or whatever, and so they would just keep fleeing until the Guard just pushed them off the board,
Yeah.
just due completely to psychology rules. And it's like, that's not cool. Like, that's
Yeah,
not a good
exactly.
system.
That's that negative play experience again. Like, you're taking meaningful decisions away from the player at that point. To quote Ruben from earlier, like, again, that meaningful decision. You want to feel like you participated in your game. Even if it was a win or even if it was a loss, you want to have participated in losing and not just, oh, it just rolled that way. Like, that's the worst experience.
It always feels better if you feel like you were beaten by decisions instead of just beaten by rules, you know? Like you just felt your opponent just had things, you're like, I don't know how to answer this. Oh, well, I guess I lose. Like, that always feels bad.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like nothing for it, really. But yeah. So, to answer your question, Nathaniel, the beeping in the back, there's a neighbor. We have the same alarm system. So they open the door and it beeps.
They're not supposed to be cleaning right now, so we have to talk to our landlord and have them
Tell them to stop
tell
again.
them, yeah, like it's a new group, and so they're not supposed to clean right now, but if left to their own devices, Wednesday after 6 is like apparently the best time to clean ever, because it's like completely 100%. They always do unless you specifically tell them not to. It's weird.
All right. So yeah, the cover changes are interesting. Some of the categories, actually one of the really interesting changes came in the form of the barricades and fuel pipes, because you have fences and Promethean pipes and all of that have a specific width to them, right? Like the terrain pieces themselves are kind of large. And typically if you're going to be fighting a model, you have to be in base contact with them, or maybe within an inch, or depending on what the rule is. Well, in the specific case of terrain classified as barricades and fuel pipes, it actually changes the engagement range to 2 inches. So you can charge at a model that is, behind a fence or whatever, and you can technically still get in engagement range. Now, if any part of the base is obscured, they're going to get the benefit of cover, but at least you can still attack them. And you don't get into the weird niggly rules issue of, well, are you exactly within this range? They gave you 2 inches to just make it pretty easy. So I think that probably speeds things up. You also get the benefit of cover within 3 inches of the terrain instead of, I think, 1 inch normally. So that's one of the benefits there. Hills and sealed structures. So you think of buildings, obviously. If you're inside a building, you can shoot out of it, but if you're on the other side of a building from your target, you can't see through it at all, regardless of true line of sight. Like the footprint actually is what blocks it. Woods, you have to watch out for woods, which It actually kind of mirrors a lot of War Machine. Like, you can't really see through two edges of the woods without it being cover. In War Machine, you couldn't see them at all, so that's a little different. If you're inside the woods, you can see out. Ruins had an interesting change as well, and this seems to encourage tall terrain, which makes Tommy happy because he's building a bunch of tall terrain. There is a additional rule called plunging fire. So if the attacking model is 6 inches or higher than the target model, you get +1 AP to your attacks in ranged fire. So it encourages you to want to take and seize tall terrain, climb up to the top of it and start shooting down because you're going to get a bonus to your AP for it, which Guard would certainly want to do because, I mean, my snipers would get actually a benefit of that.
Yeah.
Maybe it makes the snipers a little better, right? My little
Because-
ratlings can be out there again.
Because as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, you have the high ground.
You have a high ground. Bless their heart. They were on a green screen. They didn't know what was going on. Poor
But
thing.
the other problem though is that the terrain kits, like the Imperium terrain kits that you get, their second floor that's up is only 5 inches.
Yeah.
so
that's
you're
kind
still
of
not high enough to shoot down on
You-
people.
yeah,
you have to
you
go to
still
the
have to
next
get-
floor up.
But you said the terrain that comes in what, the kill team sets? Was
Well,
that the other-
there's the shorter terrain, like
Yeah.
the Orc ones. Those are only like 3.5 inches.
But what are those sets in? Where did they come from?
Well, there's the terrain sets. One of them is Imperium Magazine, comes
Oh,
with some
okay.
of the shorter buildings, and they're just, you can buy them as boxes as well. But they also came with Kill Team stuff. The Orc buildings we got came from Kill Team, but all of those are the shorter ones, and the second floor is only like 3.5 inches up.
So you'd have to go 2 levels up.
Yeah, but
From
it's the
third floor.
same if you buy the like more expensive, nice boxes of terrain as well
Uh-huh.
that have the higher floors.
Yeah.
Those are still only 5 inches, and so I don't know why
They
didn't
want you
set
to get
that
up really high.
Well, I don't know why they didn't set it to 5+ inches, right? Because then their terrain would work.
Well, because they want you to be on the 3rd floor. I
Which
think
is
that's by
A
design.
little much.
Unless they're going to sell new terrain sets that start at 6 inches. Possible, but for now, you're basically shooting from the
I
3rd
wouldn't
floor.
think so, because these pieces are fairly new that they've
Yeah.
been putting out. I don't think they would want to completely try to redesign all that stuff.
Is the camera frozen again? God dang it. All right, 1 second. I'll fix it. We love technical difficulties around here. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, so finishing it up here. So that was kind of one of the bigger changes to the terrain, which I look forward to. I feel like we're going to see some more elaborate boards. I look forward to having like tall spire cities and really cool objective markers. There have been some major bonuses to transports. Obviously, one of the big things that came out earlier was stuff having much higher toughness than it used to. We will see how that nets out in the world of AP3 and AP4, like damage weapons. But it seems like it's trying to make stuff a little crunchier. And specifically giving that bonus to transports means that people have a reason to bring them again. Also, all transports, any embarked unit can disembark after the vehicle has moved, with the exception of vehicles that fell back or advanced. Asterisk, there are models that have bonuses to that, where they have this special ability that you can disembark after advancing. And there's also like the firing deck idea. So models inside, models that are embarked in a transport, there's a certain number of them that it'll allow for can shoot out. So you have your Imperial Guard, you've got your unit with the melt-a-gun, you drive up, you can use that melt-a-gun and blast some enemy, then disembark. That seems like that's going to make for some more interesting gameplay for sure. Let's see. I hope the new War Machine game doesn't have immunities. Man, those Protectorate mirror matches were rough. Oh my gosh, I kind of remember those. Yeah, immunity I
Or
haven't seen in a
Signar
while.
versus Signar.
Derek, immunity changed to 1 less damage die. Yeah, much better, I think. Jeremy, I would consider going back to 40K if it was alternating activations by unit. I hate playing a game where I sit for 20 to 40 minutes, having little to do but watch them play. I mean, War Machine could be that, but the death clock made everything just... you just rushed. Well, the jury's in. Cinnamon icing tastes terrible on pizza.
Who would have thought?
I'm glad we've
except
learned
for all of us. But it has now been concluded.
You needed a jury to figure that out? Oh, Ruben. Everything else is fine, including audio. Thank you. Yes. They want you to buy their whole new terrain when it comes out. Maybe, but again, like Tommy pointed out, it's pretty new terrain already. So maybe. I suspect they want you to be up on a higher floor. Land Raider is T12. Whew. Gotta check it out. Okay, yeah. See you later, Patty. We're probably wrapping it up here too. Reminds me a lot of the transport mechanics from 6th edition. Lots of board movement and fun decisions to make. No, I think, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It'll be cool. It'll be interesting because 2 more live streams from now, we may have the rule set that we can play and rock and prepare for. So we'll see how many tanks I've got painted up and ready to go and what the new points costs are and what it all looks like. So I'm positively looking forward to 10th in the hopes that it doesn't dash the efforts of my wonderful 9th edition codex, because I do very much enjoy my codex right now. As long as I can play all my guard, then I'm happy. Oh yeah, so we'll just close out with a little shot of this guy. Yeah, scooch him up a little bit. Maybe just scooch the whole thing up a little bit. Let's refocus that little bad boy. Configure. Focus. This is not working. Okay, there we go. Doesn't focus?
Almost. Yeah, look at his helmet and focus. It gives you a good sense.
Ah, there we go, much better. All right, so yeah, there's my guy so far. He's much better
Only
looking
base
than when he
coats for
started.
the most part, so.
Looking so good. Cape is coming along nicely. Yeah, we're simplifying some of the colors, but it's approximately going to mirror the box because
Some other colors suck.
I still like looking at him. I think he's riding like the She-Ra horse.
Swiftwind.
Except for without wings. He was a Pegasus, wasn't he?
Well, Swiftwind turned into a Pegasus when She-Ra had the power. Otherwise,
It's like when Cringer would turn into Battle Cat.
Exactly. Well, but Cringer didn't change very much. Like Cringer didn't sprout wings like Swiftwind did, but yeah, kind of. I mean, this horse is hundreds of years old. It's mostly mechanical now, too. Like that has been his steed supposedly from the beginning, according to what I read. So, anyway, Jeremy, I hate painting horses. That's why I have a huge army of Bretonnian knights. Whatever, Jeremy. All right, well, thank you all for hanging out, and I really appreciate you joining me for the live stream tonight. We eventually got around to the rules, so we actually met the goal of talking about it. Are you guys looking forward to 10th edition? Are you interested at all? Is this change the type of thing that would either bring you back to 40K or make you consider trying 40K? It seems like the push of this new edition is to try and invite new players in, so I am curious to see how effective that is. The rule set's going to be free to people, so that should be, easily accessible, but we'll see how it nets out in the next few months.
Also, Jeremy pointed out that Cringer grew to 3 times his normal size, so that's significantly more change than just wings.
I know which one I would choose. So yes. Anyway, thank you all. Start over. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. I hope you got some great hobbying done tonight, or if not, just got a chance to relax and chill out among friends who all enjoy disc defragmenting as much as I did. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. It looks like the next live stream should be scheduled for May 17th. And we'll see what news we have for you by then. So take care, guys. Oh, yeah, we got a sweet outro. That's right. Let's show you that. Bye, guys. Barry, cover me. All right, guys, this is it.
Copy that. No more sandwiches, Barry. What's wrong with this place? I'm in the west corridor. I'm right outside the generator room. I'm out of bullets. Oh, Barry. Success.